Alright, here I am. Do I look good in red? Do I look okay in red? Do I look fine? Hello? Do I look okay in red?
Oh, fuck. Hey, what's up?
Hello, friends, viewers, and other individuals. I'm gonna take a sip of water real quick. Hello, friends, we're still going. So, the art community has its pitchforks out, and they're on an endless roll of calling out creators for arguably unacceptable behavior on their platform. And, I mean, sure, go for it, but holy fuck. Y'all, it's going very fast, and it's very hard to keep up. I can't help but hold, like, a suspicious and skeptical taste in my mouth as I see creator after creator being dogpiled on for things they've done that are definitely worth criticism, nonetheless, but absolutely blown out of proportion. It's intense. Now, before you click away, before you dislike, just hear me out. This isn't some preachy piece on any of the content creators that are making videos on Hopeless Peaches. This is an analysis, I'd like to say, for the content itself and the whole situation as a whole. Peaches deserves criticism, absolutely deserves criticism, and I don't believe that hate mob is necessary, though. I do realize the mob is a result of the publicity of the criticism that's being tossed around, and all the hurt that's being tossed around, alongside her horrifically horrendous response to the drama.
And if I'm being very, very clear here, that hurts me more than anything else that was said in this video. Anything else was fine, because I did think we were close friends.
But I'm almost entirely sure that a lot of the creators out here making videos on Peaches are doing it out of emotional impulse. And I can confidently place aside the content creators who I believe royally fucked things up, and content creators that I believe were just doing what they thought was right. And for those of you who are not caught up, Hopeless Peaches is under a lot of fire right now for what I can gather being intensely bad at relationship management and emotional management. Some can even argue she's gone to depths to be manipulative, where I'd agree, but I'd also point to the gesture that is subconscious and unintentional, and more rooted in her impulsivity and inability to contain her emotion. There are a lot of people that compare her actions to Toby, that of which I would disagree. And yes, it's true she flaunts her mental instability all the fucking damn time, and it looks like a fucking excuse, but she absolutely shouldn't do it. It's true, she should not do that. However, I feel it strives more from her inability to keep things to herself and put up that emotional barrier that she needs in order to keep her public image clearer. And that's what I feel is the most important distinction between Peaches and Toby. Peaches appears like she's absolutely doing this impulsively, which is its own criticism in its own right, but it's definitely not similar to what Toby did. This all started back during the Toby drama, actually, and it very much feeds off of that entire situation. And if you haven't heard much about the Toby drama, I'll recap, but you should definitely watch my other video on the situation. So Toby was a content creator that was acting like a hypocrite, but also had friends in the art community. Toby's friends stood up for her behind closed doors and in the shadows of the comments and on Twitter. For example, Hopeless Peaches was one of these content creators, while other content creators that were ill-informed about the situation attacked the very adamant Toby opposition. They were very badly informed in their opinion. They were probably trying to make a quick buck, to be honest. And since I'm bringing it up, the topic of race was constantly mentioned throughout the Toby drama, and I tried my best to steer clear of talking too much about that, simply because I felt as though it was unimportant to the original meaning of the criticism on Toby, and I argued that the discussion of race was far too amplified, and I still do stand by what I said given the context and the impression that I had. However, as things has developed more, and I've talked to a lot more people, specifically people of color creators themselves, I've come to further realize why the conversation became so racially charged. I've gotten a clear understanding where things strive from, and from a personal viewpoint, considering I've grown up in a mixed bag and I've never really experienced racism firsthand, so that's just the bubble I've grew in, so I never truly understood it, and I do apologize if it appears as though I was dismissing the racial conversation. That was not my intention. My intention was to make the other creators realize that Omnia and Kai still had fucking merit in what they were saying, and that what they were doing, criticizing them, was the wrong move. And in order to get the point across, I focused on other things. Ultimately, the extended conversation now is a lot more about race than it was before. But regardless, the Hopeless Peaches situation is not racial, and I'm very confident in my analysis of it. The initial spike of the Hopeless Peaches criticism comes from one of Prison Make Luke's videos, Why is the Toby drama still going on? Where near the end he spent a reasonable portion of his video criticizing Hopeless Peaches for involving herself in the drama throughout the comments.
And another person who commented was Hopeless Peaches, who also decided to put herself into the drama despite constantly saying how she doesn't want to be in it, and would just never leave it alone.
Strangely enough, though, his focus on that section devolved into a criticism of Hopeless Peaches entirely, her entire character. Calls her out for using mental health in a similar fashion that Toby did.
And she's been doing this for a long time. It's very manipulative, and she's always using her mental health as a pity-me card, which is funny since she called out Toby for doing the same thing.
Which, I mean, yeah, using mental health for pity is kind of a yikes moment, but that section was over almost as quickly as it started. It lasted around maybe 3 minutes. And overall, it just outlined another creator that pushed a narrative that they did not understand. One of the very important criticisms that Luke threw at Hopeless is that he claimed that she suicide baited her audience.
And when you were getting genuine criticism for all the garbage you've done, you decided to suicide bait your audience, going off the grid for hours to make your audience worry that you hurt or killed yourself.
Which is based off of the idea that she tweeted something concerning on Twitter alluding to the idea of suicide, but then later coming back apologizing for her last tweet the day after. How sure are we that it was suicide bait? How sure are we that she was actually considering it? We have no idea. I don't feel like it's fair to assume it's bait or manipulation. It is, however, irresponsible to scare your fans and audience like that and post something like that. After this video came out, Peaches had a mental roller coaster of emotion that washed over her. She made 2 community posts, alongside many tweets and comments painting to her mental lapse. Those comments and tweets generally hold a lot of the same ideals as the community posts, so we'll focus on those. The first post exclaims and apologizes for how she behaved, apologizing to Omni and Kai for what she had done, how she had behaved, and further exclaims that she never meant what she said to be suicide bait. After all, who knows what she was planning after tweeting that? It's hard to tell, knowing her mental issues are legitimately diagnosed. She takes medication for them. The second community post, she talks further about the suicide baiting and the suicide baiting assumption that Luke made, where she said, and I quote, "I have been accused of suicide baiting and faking suicide. This is due to my attempt on my life on the 23rd of October. I, thanks to the support of my friend, did not go through with it. To those I worried, I am sorry. Due to these tweets and the fact that I didn't go through with it has caused allegations of me faking suicide and suicide baiting." What can be gathered from me in this wording is that Peaches had intended on committing suicide after her very vague tweet, but was later talked down to it by a close friend, which we later found out was manga kamen, and then returned back to social media a day later. It appears as though she is extremely upset that these acts would be twisted and pushed into the simple assumption of suicide baiting, especially considering her withstanding medical conditions. Specifically on the wording, due to these tweets and the fact that I didn't go through with it, it appears as though she's blaming herself for the hate because she didn't go forward with committing suicide. Something of which I find extremely odd to vent out to your fan base, but it's worth criticism in its own merit. And this sparks a huge discussion on mental health and Spotlight. It's very clear Hopeless Peaches has used her platform as a venting ground for a long time now, something I'd argue is very irresponsible and dangerous for someone with her position online. It's indefinitely not fair to your fans to have to see your mental health in a constant spiral, and in the end it just pushes people away. It's an issue I see among a lot of content creators, also specifically Creepshow. This happens with Creepshow quite often, not to the extremity that Hopeless does, but oftentimes I will see Creepshow venting her emotions out online on Instagram. Admittingly, I've done this once or twice before myself, but to a very low extent, and I do regret every time I do it. Nonetheless, it is something that I see a lot. Creators pushing out their emotions on social media when it isn't the proper place for them. And I know a lot of people who use social media to get validation and love when they're at a low point, and I personally believe it strives from the idea that they feel like they have nowhere else to turn, so they turn to the internet. And it's very dangerous, Peaches. This is a very dangerous thing to do, as you've seen throughout this whole thing. Everybody sees what gets put out there, and it can come off in the worst of ways. You, Peaches, need to stop using your platform as a venting ground and start treating it like a brand. How you're going about this is irresponsible at the least and idiotic at the most. It's not what you should be doing with your platform. She's openly expressed her unhappiness with her portrayal of suicide baiting, to which I'd say just please stop posting to Twitter and using it to output so much emotional torment. It will cause you so many issues overall and will do more harm than good, because there's thousands of people who might see that and twist it and get the wrong idea. I don't want to assume that you were suicide baiting, but I also want you to know that. It's fucked up for the people around you. to make the Mori like that, to spread pain and fear like that, despite if you're planning on going through with it or not. And I know that might be a controversial opinion because it's very unpopular, but that's my personal beliefs. Shortly later, prison mate Luke releases a video titled "Stop Lying, Peaches" on YouTube, where he paints Peaches in a light that's extremely unfavorable. Very, very unfavorable. He starts off by recapping what he said at the end of the Toby video, then goes into depth about how Peaches lied about him, quote unquote. He exclaims that Peaches was furthering the drama by venting her frustrations out of her possibly inaccurate portrayal of her suicide baiting, which she was obviously very over-emotional about.
If this is where the drama ends, I'm willing to bite the bullet. But that's not where it ended. She kept going on about it.
And Luke, I wouldn't argue she was furthering the drama. I would rather argue that she's extremely over-emotional about what you said in your video, which is definitely a fault on her end, and it's its own criticism. And I feel like she should have just tried to move past it calmly instead of being aggressively upset about it. He brings up the two community posts that we discussed. The one where she apologizes and the one where she discusses more on the suicide baiting.
And not only that, instead of being sorry for what she did, she turned really bitter about having to apologize and started lying about me. Where just a few days later, it turned from an issue she had to work on and improve, it turned into me being this awful person who was throwing around accusations that were ruining her career.
What? No, that's not what I gathered at all. I gathered somebody who was clearly upset by someone else not understanding the full extent of what went down that day and then overreacting when she noticed a sub drop. Hence why she exclaims, "Again, I don't believe these allegations came from a place of malice." I feel as though Luke completely missed the mark behind the wording that Peaches used and interpreted it in the worst way. And it's evident as you move further through the video.
She's also been lying to her audience about what I said in my video, telling people that I was upset that she didn't die or that I called her a scumbag because of it. At no point did I call her a scumbag at all. I said what she was doing on Twitter was scummy. Those are two different things. And the fact that she would go around YouTube and tell people that I wish she committed suicide is so disgusting. It's one thing to say that me accusing you of manipulating your fans for sympathy is too much. That's its own discussion. But saying that I wanted you dead is another. And the fact that you're so willing to put that out there to defame me, all because I called you out, shows a lot about you.
This does not look like a lie at all. I feel like you're misreading that. Consider the context of what I exclaimed earlier, Luke. Context you probably failed to understand. Say for instance, Hopeless Peaches legitimately intended on committing suicide the day she tweeted what she did. Then she was later talked down from it by a friend, and she comes back to social media to find that she, quote unquote, because she didn't die, she's being assumed as a baiter of suicide. Considering her track record of mental dysfunction, I think it's unfair to assume that she wasn't at the very least considering the act, or in a mental state to do so. So her wording here doesn't appear like it's directed at you, Luke. It's not what I see. It's wording intended at herself as if to say, if I just died that day, I wouldn't be called a suicide baiter. She's self-deprecating herself. Can you not see it? I've been around so many emotionally unstable people to the point where I understand this mental headspace and I get where it comes from. And it's clear to me you might not understand it. It's not your fault, but it's definitely not how Peaches was trying to paint things. Alongside the other screenshot you showed and chose to underline, it's another example of how she feels guilty about herself for not actually committing the act, or that people now believe that she's a liar because she didn't die that day. That narrative that she's pushing is not, Luke wanted me to die. The narrative is, if I had just died that day, everything would have been avoided. Can you not see that? And it's further proven by a post she made later down the line. Luke had not said I should just die. I was just upset by the hefty allegations about me because I didn't go forward with offing myself, and I didn't have to see that post to make that deduction. Your argument here is overdrawn, Luke. She was not lying. That's not what I see here. The main thing I see here is Peaches being irresponsible with her emotional output, being unable to chill out, to calm down, to try to keep her emotions to herself, which is an extremely different criticism entirely. Not that she was lying, God, no, that's not how I see it. She's just unable to handle what's given to her, which is intensely ironic in the grand scheme of things. I've seen so many people with mental illnesses criticize the way she conducts herself, and very rightfully so, because she doesn't have much self-control with her mental state. But this accusation also isn't thrown at Peaches either. Peaches also exclaims that Luke was trying to lie to people as well, or lying about his interpretations of what she said. Another point that I don't feel is true. I don't believe Luke's attempting to lie. That's not what's going on here. He was just interpreting things wrong, something that isn't good nonetheless, but he's definitely not lying. Nobody lied here. So this title just doesn't feel right. Generally, Luke's video criticizes her, which, I mean, she deserves, but his points paint at her in a way that's very inaccurate.
She then says I'm the one that's grossly misrepresenting people when she's talking about me like I'm some sort of monster who wants her to die. I did stalk you or looking at every move you made, Peaches. You made a public comment on Jar's video and you decided to publicly continue talking about the drama. Me commenting on that isn't stalking. That's doing research.
All I see is emotional instability, her inability to keep her anxiety and fear to herself, her inability to hide when she's upset. For example, when she feels like she's being stalked, that wasn't an attack on you by any means. It could feel that way given your context, but I'm reading that so much differently. She just can't keep it to herself, and this is something that's certainly worth criticizing, like I've said in the past, but it's not good for her to go out there and act like she's having an anxiety attack every fucking time she gets criticized. It's not healthy, nor is it going to do anything for her public image. As proven throughout this entire situation, it comes off at worst manipulative. And despite if these tweets are merely impulsive, it's not good, and it's not what a good person does. Luke makes a few other points in his video regarding the general specifics of what went down, like name dropping, blah blah blah, etc. It's general nuance. However, Luke wasn't entirely wrong throughout his video. He made a few solid points.
She said how creators and fans were harassing her, when I know of no one besides myself that called her out, and I haven't talked to her since my blocking. And if any of my fans did that, I'm sorry, but she's overblowing the backlash she got, and the criticism she's got is only due to her actions during the Toby drama.
Yes, she's overblowing the fuck out of things, but sometimes you are as well. Additionally, I'd like to very strongly agree on this previous sentiment in his Toby video.
Well, you say how you're going to be taking a break from the drama and comments and all that, which is fine. If you need a break, you need one. I'm not saying you don't have mental health problems.
I absolutely think Peaches needs to own up and follow through with her promised hiatuses, because, quite honestly, she needs a real one, not a fake one. So fucking take one, Peaches. Then maybe you won't overreact all the time. This next portion of Luke's video outlines Hopeless Peaches and Creepshow's relationship as creators and friends. Overall, I'm going to ignore this part because generally we get a much better outline on Creepshow's video that she made herself. Overall, Luke's video was, it was alright, I guess. The Creepshow portion was generally alright. And we'll get to that later. However, I feel as though he misunderstood a lot of Peach's wording and read it in a way that he took very uncharitably, which I find is an oversight. Luke, you should calm down a bit. Not everything is an attack on you. This is clearly emotional torment being vented out in places they shouldn't be. But most definitely, Peaches should calm down a lot as well. Not everything is the end of the world, Peaches. Calm down. Take what's dished to you in a respectable, calm way. A lot of this would have been avoided if you had just explained yourself in a more cautious manner. After this video came out, a lot of ex-creator friends of Peaches came out of the woodworks to further discuss how Peaches had also been emotionally unpleasant. They were talking in the comments section of Luke's initial video, and that ultimately sparked the bonfire of criticism. And although Luke's general experience with Peaches is not black and white, some creators did actually have a very unpleasant experience. Peaches has emotionally hurt quite a lot of few people due to the relationship mismanagement. So Luke posts a follow-up video. And in this follow-up video, Luke brings a larger content creator to talk about her experience with Peaches and how their unpleasant interactions occurred. And this all happened 2 years ago. It's broken down like this. Hopeless Peaches and a creator called Camilla were buddies. They wanted to collaborate. They worked on an art piece together and they both signed it. Later down the line, Camilla started to sell her piece online as merchandise. Peaches did not like that, as she had worked on the piece as well. Therefore, she asked her to take it down, which she did. However, Peaches went out and made a post about Camilla anyway because she was attempting to sell Peaches' work without any permission or partial compensation. Sounds like a messy situation to me. I mean, that should iron itself, right? It's 2 years ago. It did happen 2 years ago, right? It should iron... No? No? Okay, not really, I guess. Camilla gets on Luke's video, tells her side of the story, and she claims that she did have permission to sell the posters based on this screenshot here, where they, like, briefly mentioned it for a little bit. Is that it? Like, an exchange of ideas? It appears here that nothing was actually set in stone. Especially after seeing this screenshot, I'd imagine if you were attempting to make monetary gain off the poster, you would at least give a lot more discussion into the matter. You didn't provide any further discussion of how you guys would sell the poster, and I'm very confused as to why Peaches would get a lot of slack for feeling like she's been wronged for a creator trying to sell off her work without partial compensation. An artist getting their work sold and getting nothing out of it? I mean, sure, she took it down, and that was definitely the right thing to do. And Camilla addressed her lapse in judgment in her response to the situation years before. years ago. And overall, the criticism to that has been received and accepted by herself already. And I'm mentioning it here because if you've accepted the fact that you were faulty in that, why bring it up in the future? Why bring up the fact that you had permission when you've accepted in the past that you really should have been more clear? Despite that, Peach's call-out post had a lot of, to put it lightly, mistruths. Like, not true things. Like, lies. There were fucking lies in her call-out. She claimed that she was taken advantage of when she was not. She claimed that her signature was too small when it was not. She claimed that her talent was abused when it was not. And she claimed that there was no credit when there was. I legitimately have no idea where these ideas came from, and I don't want to assume the worst in Peaches for it, but Peaches, don't twist the truth when you feel as though you've been wrong. These claims are pretty strong. They could really ruin somebody. Camilla talked about the idea that Peaches badmouthed her constantly throughout the situation behind her back, which, you know, if those claims hold merit, then that's an unfortunate circumstance of Peaches being a bad friend and ultimately showing off a lot of her personal flaws when it comes to personal relationships. She needs to stop fucking running away from people and actually talk to them when things go wrong, or when things don't go away in a conversation. It's how you keep a friendship, and it's how you avoid running away and venting to other people about the issues you have with somebody. She needs to stop running away for validation when a friend hurts her or when a friend disagrees with her. I know exactly where you're coming from, Peaches. I understand the mindset. I have my own personal issues with this as well, and even now I do. It's hard to be around somebody when they hurt you, but please talk to them. This isn't something you should do with people that care about you or that you feel threatened by. It just builds anger and resentment. You need to find a safe outlet that won't come back and haunt you. Not content creators, not untrustworthy friends. You need to step away from content creators. Improve yourself with friends that don't know you as Hopeless Peaches, the YouTuber. If you can get real friends like that, then by God, they can pick you up and make you better than anybody else can. This is advice from one individual to another, Peaches. This is when things kind of get sad. When Creepshow tells her tale. It's pretty hard to get the general gist of what happened with the Creepshow in my video. It's a very emotionally charged video, and overall the tale goes like this. Hopeless and Creepshow were friends. Hopeless did not like the way that Creepshow's content was going and decided to confront her about it. Creepshow stood by her content strongly, felt as though she was doing what's necessary and that there was no real issue with her content. And as a result, Hopeless had a mental breakdown about the conversation, and turns into feeling like Shannon is changing as a person in a bad way. And I can understand if you feel as though your friend's content does not match exactly with your viewpoints and guidelines, but I mean, fuck, I have a few of my friends who make content where I vehemently disagree with what they say, but quite honestly, going behind them and feeding other content creators bad omens about your friend just comes off as an absolutely fucking horrific thing, and I don't really care much on the context of why you would do it. You need to vent to people who are rational, who could take a lot of your mental venting with a grain of salt when it comes to other people. Not to Toby, I'm sorry. Yeah, Toby, look. Toby and Hopeless Peaches were friends. And it's very likely when Toby was planning her video on Creepshow, she asked Hopeless about her experience with Creepshow, and Hopeless gave an emotionally charged response. And Toby used that argument to fuel her video near the end, which ultimately made Creepshow understandably upset.
I also said before that I know that this is one of the people who Toby said feels negatively about me and is scared of me, and if I'm being very, very clear here, that hurts me more than anything else that was said in this video. Anything else was fine, because I did think we were close friends, and I do greatly care about this person, and I shared a lot of private information with them because I trusted them. So knowing they are now telling other content creators about our private conversations, and they're talking to other content creators about me in this way and are scared of me, that to me sucks. It really sucks knowing my friend is scared of me.
Because someone she considered to be a great friend appeared to turn her back on her and feel hurt. And when it was really just Hopeless's inability to come and talk and still treat you like a human despite the differences in opinion. And it's important to state that Toby did confirm that it was Peach's story that she placed into the video, but despite that, Peaches had no involvement in the video itself. Direct. Overall, Shannon's story had a really rough patch. There's many other claims in there that you can take as you wish. A lot of the documentation of what she says can't be proven or disproven because there's quite a lack of screenshots, so I won't go over too much of it in the video, but there is one thing I'd like to point out. Because I feel Creepshow as well can be very over-emotional sometimes, based on what I've publicly seen from her, considering she's deleted her Twitter a few times, now due to a lot of mental situations, and I fear as though maybe your story might be overblown a little bit, due to the understandable mental torment that you have towards what happened. And I'm worried that people are at each other's throats when things are not as amplified as they're painted out to be. Oh boy, now Omnia wants it on the pile. Woo! Here we go! Woo! It's a Hopeless Peaches hate party down here. Come on, let's have a beer. Let's go. We're getting a little closer to present events now. So Omnia releases a series of videos about Hopeless Peaches and her personal experience with Peaches. Ultimately, this absolutely feeds into the Toby drama. So if you don't know jack shit about it, go watch my video on it. Omnia looked up to Peaches as a creator when starting her channel, and ultimately, her and Peaches became pals for a while during the Toby drama. When it was first birthing, as Omnia and Kai criticized her, Peaches was generally supportive of her friend Omnia on her stance with Toby. And as things progressed, however, I presume something in her changed. She watched Harsh Opinion's video on her. Ultimately, she had a change of heart, a change of opinion, which is perfectly fine, of course. I mean, that's all chill in the grand scheme of things. Where the issues came about is when she took her new opinions to Omnia. She tried to confront Omnia about her direction of the Toby situation, and Omnia, just like Creepshow, stood her ground where she stood. That made Peaches, again, upset. Surprise, surprise. Peaches didn't like the differing opinion. She got anxious, ran away, became passive-aggressive, vented about people, etc., etc. She pulled the same stunt on Omnia that she pulled on Creepshow, and later down the line, she used their brief relationship to her advantage after she had flipped sides of the argument, claiming that Omnia and Kai's apologies were not, quote, genuine, when really she wouldn't have any idea whether they were or not. No, Peaches, don't fucking do that. She even helped edit the script of that one horrific Just a Robot video, albeit it was just grammar corrections, but I personally find it odd that you'd be helping with it in the first place. Hopeless, your friends don't have to validate you constantly. Friends are there to be loyal. Not for that, not for validation. Your friends can have different opinions, and just because they disagree with you does not make them an instant enemy or an instant non-friend. You're pushing people away when you can embrace these differences and be happy with people. This isn't healthy, nor is this something a genuine person would do. Just chill. If anything, I would call you hopeless. You're like a hopeless romantic except with friendships. It's something you need to work on. Stop pushing friends away. Stop fucking up. She finally makes a response around the same time Omnia releases her videos, and the legendary epic gamer response from Hopeless Peaches, Epic Gamer, the one she legitimately took down while I was writing this fucking script. And when I was researching and brainstorming for this video, I had a feeling I would know what would already be in this 20-minute monstrosity of a response, ultimately because I had already considered the other side of things when building this video, and telling all of you the tale. Peaches made a response, and her response was less than swell. It was a defense video when it should have been a reflection video. Peaches, I understand that Luke royally fucked up with his call out on you, and I somewhat agree with that, but the others did not, and you put way too much focus on the wrongs of others when you should have also looked at yourself as well. It's a pattern people have seen. Someone upsets you, you run away. You vent the frustrations in an irresponsible way. Stop doing it. Stop that. You have a lot of real personal issues that you need to iron out with yourself before you consider making personal relationships with people in the community again. You need to find people that will like you for who you are. Someone that doesn't know you as Hopeless Peaches. I said this before, but you're absolutely broken as a person, and you don't know how to treat people well because of it. Do I think you should be canceled? Absolutely not. And it really sucks because I can see a lot of myself in you, Peaches. I see those struggles of friendship management. I get them too. The difference between me and you is I try not to burn the bridges. I've been where you are. I've tried my best to improve as a person. I've been able to do it behind closed doors, and I know you can come back from this. It just comes from acknowledging the mess you've caused when you vent out online. You need to calm down. That's your first step. People want to see change in you, Peaches, similar to what some of my old friends in the past wanted from me. We fucked up. Stop repeating yourself. Stop fucking up. Because at this rate, you're not going to go anywhere by focusing on what others did wrong. It's a common repeat. Take a look at yourself. Your mental disorder can excuse you only for a little bit, but after a while it becomes hard to be around. I'm going to say something to you that I did that was similar to what I said to Toby. Just because you have a mental disorder doesn't make you any less unpleasant to be around sometimes. Let this be a wake-up call. Just make us proud. That's all we want.